So this is Maggie. Today I'm talking about Mercury. I'm just going to go around the wheel and talk about how Mercury expresses itself in each of the signs, beginning with Aries and the houses as well. Aries or first house, to have Mercury in Aries would make you your communication would be direct to the point. You may tend to blurt things out, um, interrupt. Yeah, because Aries just starts, they just kind of jump in. It's ruled by Mars. So you'd be not, I wouldn't say really talkative, but if you want to get in a conversation, you just jump in. You just, randomly jump in, or you interrupt, or you blurt things out, or, um, yeah. And, if it's conjunct your sun, then you can't wait. Actually, Aries, because it's cardinal fire, you kind of can't wait to finish a conversation, or just kind of jump in whenever. But Mercury in Aries is just very direct, to the point, and communicative. But it doesn't. I don't think it likes a whole lot of explanation. Just get to the point and, yeah, sum it up, be concise, and try to get to the point. That's how I would describe Mercury in Aries, talking to somebody or listening. I would say more listening, because it's your thinking as well. So you're thinking as well, and so if you're listening to someone else talk, Aries is about the self, or your personality, your first house personality, and you may not be such a good listener, and you may tend to interrupt, and people may know that you're not really listening. Um, yeah, so anyway, Mercury retrograde would be just sort of slowing down your thinking, or maybe you would have to think about what you're talking about before you say it, or a slight hesitation. Yeah, it can cause all kinds of different things, just a hesitation, or maybe stuttering, or just learning disabilities. That's not everyone with Mercury born, because most people are born with Mercury retrograde. So it may just mean, your thought processes are different than other. You may be more reflective, or you may think, I'm still trying to figure out my Mercury. So, yeah, I just think it can make you more reflective before you speak, or you may have issues with speaking or thinking, or, you know. Anyway, moving on to Mercury in Taurus. Mercury in fixed earth sign Taurus, or in the second house of money. Your communication would be, uh, first of all, you're ruled by Venus. Aries was ruled by Mars, so you're back. I'm just going to backtrack a little. Communication could perhaps be a little argumentative, because you are ruled by Mars, Aries. Whereas with Taurus, they're ruled by Venus, so their communication would be softer. They could tend to have a beautiful voice, maybe a good singer. But it could be about assets, or, when you talk, it could be about assets or beauty, because Venus rules beauty. Taurus loves, well, they can argue politics, or they can pretty much talk anything, but because it's in the second house, they would be great at talking about money or assets. I could just see like a broker, or a portfolio manager or something like that, having your Mercury in the Taurus in the second house. So you may talk about money, or Venusian things, to do with beauty, because you would be Earth. You may talk about um, gardening, or whatever Earth signs do. Your communication would be, you know, slower, not slower, but more patient than the fire signs. You probably wouldn't interrupt as much. Um, yeah, and so your Mercury, if well aspected, could really help you to, because you're fixed Earth and you have so much common sense and business acuity anyway, and so to have Mercury there, it would just enhance your skills that you already possess. So, you could make money through your communication, and yeah, so your thinking would be grounded. It would be more grounded and fixed. Your opinion, however, would be very fixed. So if somebody tried to argue with you, you probably wouldn't budge from your point, because the fixed signs are hard to budge. Um, yeah, and so Aries would probably just argue with you, or not. Anyway, Gemini, moving on, mutable Gemini is, or in the third house, to have Mercury in Gemini, it's the ruler of Gemini. So, and it's the ruler also of the third house. That's Gemini's house. So to have Gemini in the third house, Mercury rather, in the third house or in Gemini, you're just so skilled at social relationships and communication, and your thinking is so fast. You could be very, very intelligent, very, very well learned, or if not, you would just be always reading or thinking or communicating or going on social media. But your communication skills, because you have your ruler there, would be just amazing, just amazing. And you could really use those. You would communicate so clearly and articulate, maybe a bit much for someone. Everyone has a certain allotment of words. I don't know. I heard this from my brother-in-law. It's like that person has a lot of words, or this person has so many words. So to someone who's more quiet and reserved, say, you would adapt though, because, like if you say you were in sales or something, marketing, sales, whatever, you're so mutable, you could adapt your communication skill to anybody, to absolutely anyone. If you were talking to a Pisces or Capricorn or whoever, you you would just sort of tune in and feel them out, and not so much feel, but think about it, and adapt your communication and make that sale. Yeah, but that is one of the best placements for Mercury. Very great. So if you have that, you can really use it to your benefit. Mercury in the fourth house, in cardinal fourth house, water, Cancer. Um, yeah, their communication would be feelings. It would be a lot on the feeling level, um, and the content. It's not like they always talk about food in the home and feelings, and um, but their communication would be extremely sensitive, and their thinking as well. So, you have to be very thoughtful when talking to a Mercury in Cancer person, or they could use their Mercury and their innate intuition and sensitivity, just listening to their friends or anyone. If they say were a counselor or something, they would be extremely skilled using their Mercury to communicate with that person and help that person. So because they're very intuitive water, and extremely sensitive. So with their Mercury, they could tune, and you'd have to see where their moon is, but in the fourth house, they could tune right into you. And I was going to say conversate with you. I'm just joking. Yeah, so moving on, fifth house, Mercury. Again, yeah, fifth house, Leo or fire just has to communicate. I mean, they probably are on film, making videos. I'm thinking of Leo King and just thinking of all kinds of people, yeah, that have Mercury in the fifth. They would need to communicate not only about themselves, but just have some kind of positive self-expression, um, and they would feel impelled to talk about probably themselves a lot, but and they may be loud and um, they could be boisterous. Leo rules the heart. Um, So they may communicate with a lot of different people, especially if they're like filming or something. But again, they're fire. So they could, when provoked, a fire sign's Mercury will just, maybe lose their temper or yell at you or something and, be very loud and throw a little fit, and they'll get over it really fast. They just kind of explode and then they're over it. Um, Yeah, so Mercury in Leo, all the fire signs. But because they're so good at self expression anyway, to have Mercury there would just make them a star in whatever they do. Not necessarily a star, but it would really help them to communicate themselves to the world. Or they would want to be the center of attention through their Mercury. Say in a group meeting or something, they might dominate the conversation. Their thought process and their thinking though would be very inspirational because they are fire, and they are spirit, and they are heart. So Mercury in sixth house, Virgo, or the sixth house is yeah, is Mercury in the sixth is the ruler, for one thing. It's the ruler of Gemini and Virgo. It's mutable. It's the opposite of Pisces, mutable Pisces. So, yeah, I did say it was fixed in another video. They're not fixed, they're mutable. Um, yeah, so their communication would be so it would be like a higher octave of Gemini. Geminis would be more social, more chattery, a lot of thoughts, kind of maybe more scattered, whereas Virgos are so analytical and they're so focused on details. They would just, with their Mercury there, they could analyze anything. That would be, they could, say they were a doctor, or a psychologist or a scientist, that they could really use their Mercury to and their analytical skills to penetrate whatever it is that they're analyzing, and they may tell you about it to they may tell you about it. They may, because sometimes Mercury Virgos can see everything. They see so much, and they can see the flaws as well as the good things, and so sometimes they may tell you about it, um, and you may not want to hear it, but they're as a rule they're pretty polite, I think. Unlike Sagittarius, they're not brutally blunt. Let's put it that way. They're just so busy analyzing every fact, that they have to literally analyze everything in front of them, and it's really where it really kind of can burn them out sometimes, um, because their mind is so overworked and it's just so they're using it all the time. So it's hard for them to shut down sometimes. But to use it in the health field or at work, you excel any kind of work that you did with Mercury there in communication and in your thinking and exploring and analyzing and all the things that you're skilled at. Um, so seventh house, to have Mercury in your seventh house of relationships in Libra, cardinal Libra. Um, Libra is ruled by Saturn, um, and it's the Venusian things. Libra, I always think of the arts, but especially personal relationships. The seventh house. you would you would want to talk to your partner. I mean, seventh house is all about personal relationships, whether it's an intimate one or just all kinds of social relationships. But you would want to communicate that. That would be all important to you, and it is anyway with Libras because they are so social. They're they're above the IC, so they're starting to the 7th to the 12th houses. They're starting to get more social. Um, yeah, so you would talk a lot, and you would want to talk to your partner or your friends, or that would be very, very important to you, and your thinking too would be very, very um, sort of analytical as well, because of Saturn, being ruled by Saturn. They can be fair and just, and they try to weigh and balance each decision. They'd be good judges, good judges, lawyers. Uh, yeah, because they do weigh and balance every decision. But if they were, say, in a relationship, all important relationships to Libra, of course, um, and say their partner wouldn't talk to them or wouldn't listen, that would really bother them, because communication, having Mercury there, that would be very, very important to them. To be able to communicate, they have to use it, and they want to use it with people. So if they're talking to a wall, and they don't want to just be the only one talking, because you're thinking as well and you're listening, and so they would want want it reciprocal. Um, and they may talk about personal relationships a lot. Say, if you had a Libra friend, you may be hearing a lot about um, just social interactions, all social interactions. And they would excel in that. If you, say, hired a Libra, Mercury and Libra person to manage your social media, they would be so skilled at it. That would be a great thing for them to do. And they would love it. They would love it and excel at it. So Mercury in the 8th house, in fixed Scorpio, water sign. Libra was air. I'm just zoning out on the symbol. I need some tea. Today I'm having vanilla chai tea. I have to drink some with honey. Get some caffeine and honey to my brain. But I love vanilla chai tea. So anyway, Mercury in water, deep water Scorpio fixed, likes to talk about things with depth. It does not want superficial chatter. It's in intimate relationships, they want to talk about, maybe metaphysical stuff, or, Masonic stuff, or just, something with depth and feeling, because they are very, very, very sensitive. But with Mercury in a water sign, as intuitive as they are, they could use that. They would just be skilled to look into someone, and they could talk to anyone, with their Mercury there. Only on a feeling. What they would do is vibe it out. The water signs tend to vibe it out. So that's what their Mercury would do, and then they would communicate with you. They would kind of size it up and communicate with you on that level. But it would be their thoughts would be a lot deeper, because they are very deep, and they love mystery. So they may be very skilled at communicating about the great mysteries, or anything mysterious, that fascinates them. They could be teachers as well. Anyone could, but on a feeling level, on a feeling level, they're extremely, extremely sensitive. So they may, and their Mercury, it's your thought life too. So they may remember, you know, childhood in the eighth house too. You know, it's ruled by Mars and Pluto. So they may remember, you know, just have some psychic wounding from childhood or something that they remember, you know, in their thought processes, and that could make them very, very, because they're sensitive anyway. And yeah, so yeah, you just don't want to hurt Scorpio's feelings, but their communication skills, they would be adept at penetrating the greater mysteries of life, or communicating about joint assets and funds, and, you know, wills, inheritances, you know, working in any kind of joint resources, being a sex counselor, you know, but it's just how you think and how you communicate. So Scorpio wants depth. They really do. They want depth and mystery, and yeah, and they are fixed. They are fixed, and they will remember. So. Um, So Sagittarius, if you have Mercury in Sag or your ninth house, Sagittarius is mutable fire. It's the opposite of, it's opposing Gemini. That's mutable air. So they they could be a skilled orator. I never could say that word. Orator. Anyway, they're skilled at speech, talking. Um, you know, like if you were a trial lawyer, you know, speaking, teacher, because Sagittarius rules, you know, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And so that's wisdom, higher law, theology, philosophy, travel. You could be a travel agent. Um, Mercury would be always talking about adventures, the adventures they're having, or and they would be so open-minded to talk. They could talk to anyone about anything, because I think of their Jupiter and their forward-thinking minds. They're, as a rule, very intelligent, and yeah, and so they make good teachers and lawyers and world travelers, or you know, they may talk about travel, you know, to foreign countries, or they may just be wise, or they may just be fun. They may use their Mercury to talk about uh, all their ninth house adventures that they're having, or they could be like a theologian, you know, and use their Mercury to, say you're a Jesuit priest, you know, to use their Mercury to teach in college, you know, higher education. And, you know, those are some of the most highly educated people in the world that learn from the Jesuits. So that's an example of higher learning using Mercury in Sagittarius. Also, you know, you could like be a travel agent, but your thinking would be, being a mutable fire sign, you would be more open-minded and go with the flow. But it would be fiery, and so, you know, you could, your enthusiasm, you could really make a point. If you're a fire sign, you could really bring a point home, whether you're a teacher or a lawyer or anyone, and they can be brutally blunt. I actually have 3 Sagittarians in my family, but yeah, they're just stating the facts, you know, just stating the facts, and they can, all the fire signs can use their Mercury, but if, you know, if they do, you know, lose their temper or something, they get over it really fast. They just do. And yeah, so Sagittarians, as a rule, I just find them pretty just, and because they're near the midheaven, you know, they're near the MC. They've already evolved from finding their identity, they're already putting it out in the world as a rule. You know, Libra is just finding their identity and socializing with everybody. Scorpio is sort of, looking within and just exploring the mysteries and sharing them with others in uh, their way. And then Sagittarius is a little more out in the world. They're ready to, they're more universal, I think, ready to explore the whole world, in the universe. So, yeah, Mercury and Sag is a good placement for those things. And yeah, and they're thinking, because they're ruled by Jupiter, which is wisdom, you know, would be futuristic and just very wise. I mean, you could probably ask them anything, and they would be able to expound on a variety of different subjects, even if they've had no higher education or anything. They just could, maybe they're an avid reader, or maybe they just know a lot. Anyway, moving on to the MC, the midheaven is the main cardinal point. So if you have Mercury up there, you really have it made when it comes to a career or being in the public eye, communicating publicly. I'm thinking of like a newscaster or something, in the public eye. Yeah, someone in the press, press corps. Yeah. Anyway, so Mercury in Capricorn in the 10th house. It's cardinal angle for one thing. MC is very important. And Capricorn in the 10th house is your 10th house of career. Career and the public eye, how you're seen and perceived in the world. So you would look to the 10th house. And to have Mercury there, it's so helpful to know what you have in the midheaven, or to even have anything in the midheaven or in Capricorn, and especially Mercury in Capricorn. You could use that to your benefit to work, or to communicate with people in business. You would have more common sense and communication skills with just about everyone, and be able to use that to get ahead. You would have probably a step up on a lot of the other signs, just to have any planets up in the midheaven, up in Capricorn. Yeah, in the 10th house. It is cardinal. So having it on an angle, of course, in your chart you may have it in different houses, but this is just a general chart. They would use their Mercury to probably communicate for material gain. Not always material gain, I mean, but they could be, because they've already learned the lessons of Sagittarius, so they could be like a master achiever in whatever field they're in, and they would be able to communicate about it, and their thinking would be, they too could probably talk about just about any subject, because and they're in the public eye. They would be in the public eye somehow through communication, I believe, Yeah, I mean, it could just be like through Facebook or YouTube, or somehow, some way they would be perceived, or it could just be like on the block, or, somehow your communication, you could really use that to your benefit. And Capricorns are really good at that because they're ruled by Saturn. Saturn's the ruler of cardinal Capricorn, cardinal Earth. So they're solid. They're very solid. So very solid and disciplined as a rule. So to use that in your work life, you would be a great worker, if not the boss, or the moving on to 11th house or Aquarius is air. Yeah, it's air ruled by Uranus and Saturn, and its opposition is to fixed Leo, so it's fixed air. And to have Mercury is because it's ruled by Uranus, it's like the higher octave of Mercury, and so their communication is like really it's like a fine tuning fork, it's extremely analytical. Um, the Saturnian part can be extremely serious, um, and sometimes rigid and fixed about making a point. The Uranian part of, you know, of Uranus, sorry, of more caffeine. I need more caffeine. Hold on. So good, honey chai. Um, yeah, so they could communicate on anything. The Uranian part of Aquarius just can make excellent astrologers and be able to read the symbols, the signs, and explain it to everyone in English, or maybe not. Maybe an astrobabble, but um, yeah, or they would be wide open to unique ideas. Um, Thinking of like Tesla or Einstein, they would have a unique, very fast analytical mind. I mean, at the speed of light. I mean, yeah, they would be extremely intelligent, very intelligent, and because they're using their Uranus and Saturn, and to have Mercury in Aquarius, I think it's a great placement because they could communicate to everybody, literally everybody, every every way, one on one in groups to the world, you know, uh, they could start groups. They would just be masters at it. They would be extremely skilled, and their communication would be very, very fast, and they would have a million ideas in their heads, and they would talk about them. And so they would be the ones to form groups, I think. They would be excellent at it, to bring people together, to, to, to form some kind of group. They're great humanitarians. It could be, anything that you're into. But Aquarians can be kind of quirky and eccentric, and that's the Uranian part of them. They're fun, and so they would have fun while they're doing it. But social, all the air signs, um, social interaction is extremely important to them. Beginning with Gemini, and then it gets more analytical in Virgo, the Mercury's co-ruler of Virgo. And then when it gets to Aquarius, Mercury gets to Aquarius, it's more inclusive of other people. It's yeah, it just wants to include everyone in their communication. So it could go global, or they would make great teachers and just really expound. But their minds too might be hard to shut down at the end of the day. Yeah, it might be hard to shut their minds down because they're still going with all these ideas and thoughts and opinions. But they'd be great leaders of groups, great astrologers, anything unique and different. I mean, even if you were, say, in modeling or something like that, you would stand out with your Mercury somehow in your uniqueness. Your communication would be unique. It would be unique to yourself. It wouldn't be like anyone else's. So and people like that. They like originality. I mean, most people do. Some people are very conservative, and yeah, so they might not relate that well, but Aquarians are very adaptable, just like Geminis. They're adaptable to, and Libras too. They just want to communicate and socialize, so they will adapt to however you communicate and be able to get the point across. They just want to talk to people on whatever forum. Yeah, so anyway, moving on. If you have Mercury in Pisces or in the 12th house, Pisces is mutable water. Mutable water, it's opposed to Virgo. Yeah, so Mercury in Pisces would be a great. I know I talk about the arts a lot with Pisces because they're just so good at them. That they would be extremely imaginative and be able to put those into some form. Maybe be great writers. Because this would cover writing as well. Actually back to Mercury and Sagittarius, so they would probably be publishers or maybe write books. And Mercury and Capricorn too, they could write books or be, publishing or different ways to use it. And Aquarius as well. But so Mercury in Pisces would probably be writing. It's not always just poetry and music, but they do love. They do love Venusian things. They just do. And they're 12th house, so they're mutable water. So they're very changeable. Their communication could kind of be like all over the place, kind of like, but interesting, very fascinating people to talk to because they have so much knowledge, and they could also use it to, because they're so intuitive and sensitive, they could use their Mercury, their thought processes to, say they were reading a chart or something, or they were doing some counseling or some healing work, maybe massage therapy or something. They would use their Mercury to vibe it out, again, like all the other water signs, like, like Scorpio and Cancer, they would vibe it out with their, their water, 12th house water, and communicate accordingly, or be able to communicate what they're seeing intuitively on a feeling level and put it into words. Whereas some Pisces, maybe without that placement, would not be able to put it into words or into some kind of form. So, yeah, and their thought processes would be very mutable. They would just, they can be kind of dreamy, but they make excellent. I always say poets and writers, and I'm thinking of Jim Morrison. I don't know why that came up. He's not even a Pisces, but yeah, the poetry, I guess, poetry, music, or they would be listening to maybe like just doing beats or something, whatever is fun for you to use your Mercury. It would have to be fun for you, though. So I'm just thinking what would be fun would be whatever interests you. Could be photography. You could be a great photographer, great reporter, you can report on, travel, or you ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. So Neptune, too, is just like a tuning fork. They can they're so perceptive. That's your rulers. So you have a lot of innate wisdom, extremely psychic, intuitive, and to be able to put all that, imagination is the key word for Pisces. They're just full of imagination. Think of Disneyland. Yeah, to put all that imagination and creativity into words and into form, either written or, just talking, communicating. or into singing, or playing, that would count too, or just listening to a lot of music. That would be listening, hearing, all those things are Mercury. So anyway, that's the end. That's the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm just going to go around to the next. I'll do Mars next. Mars through the signs and houses. If you like this, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you want your chart done, I'm doing them for $45 at this time. So just email me, and I'll be happy to do any kind of chart you want. All right. Thank you. Bye.